And good evening to our fellow listeners and followers. Today is Sunday, April 28th. It is 8:31 p.m. This is Federico Lines of States Rights Radio and
Seth Hancock of Seth Hancock Reports. And tonight's episode, the media has installed fear of more lockdowns. And does the executive branch have immunity for life before, during, and after their oath of office? So we're going to talk a little bit about two topics that are in the news right now. And regarding lockdowns, I wanted to bring this topic up because I'm seeing headlines from across the media spectrum, from the left to the right, really pimping fear over the bird flu. You got Zero Hedge. The headline was first case of bird-cow-human transmission of bird flu reported in Texas. Breitbart, largest U.S. egg producer, finds bird flu in chickens at Texas plant. And you got the New York Times has run similar headlines that are, just fear-mongering over a potential bird flu pandemic. And Trump's Surgeon General is coming out very worried about the bird flu. And really, to me, beyond the headlines, and if you go into these stories, like the Jerome Adams one was from Business Insider, and effectively the Business Insider admitted that there's currently very low risk to humans regarding the bird flu, but Jerome Adams is very concerned that we're going to make the same mistakes as COVID, but the mistakes weren't authoritarianism. The mistakes were that the government didn't do enough quick enough. And what I want to bring up is just the argument on the principles here, because I remember when COVID started, I remember the first time I heard the idea that we might be locked down. I was like, that's crazy. We're never going to be locked down over a potential virus. And then basically the day after, I hear my governor ordered that we're going to have a lockdown in the state of Illinois. And then Trump puts out his executive order on the Friday before the Friday the 13th of March 13th, 2020. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And to me, I didn't know anything about COVID, and I didn't need to know anything about COVID. I was opposed to lockdown from the very beginning because the government does not have authority to tell me I have to be confined to house arrest without due process. And basically, it's up to me to protect myself. If there is a pandemic, if there's this virus spreading, I am responsible for my own health, not the government. And the government, it is the height of arrogance for the government from Donald Trump down to my governor, J.B. Pritzker. It is arrogance for these people to think, oh, we can save lives by telling you how to live your life. Well, no, you can't. You have no authority over my health. And, I fear that, if they try lockdown again, that the American people are not principled enough to oppose it. And that's why I wanted to bring this up.
No. And it's a great thing because, again, when I heard, I started hearing rumors about it was actually called coronavirus, and then they went into COVID. I started hearing rumors of the coronavirus. Even on December 2019, I started to hear rumors, but just rumors about this potential virus attacking in cruise ships. It was cruise ships at first. Then it came, and then all of a sudden it came from some bat soup in Wuhan, China that they made up. And before the show and even with COVID, I always told people, listen, and then when the COVID vaccine came out, I said, listen, I'm not against I'm not anti-vax, because people say, "Oh, well, you're anti-vax." You know, I've seen people on TikTok saying, "Hey, if you get the vax, you're gonna get a Krispy Kreme donut, a free donut." I go, "Oh, great! So you know, you're gonna inject me with this fluid, and you're gonna give me diabetes with a free donut. That's nice." So I'm not, and I kept saying to people, "I'm not anti-vax. I'm just anti this vax." Don't you find it kind of strange, Seth, that they came out with this in the middle of an election year? I mean, you know, I'm not anti-vax, just this one. Because with the polio vaccine, which you had polio ranging from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, then the 50s, when they finally let the vaccine go into the market, you had a decrease in levels of polio cases. But it wasn't made into a political campaign. You know, you didn't need that. And, you know, whether Trump tried to play the game or people try to do this because they despise Trump, I don't know. I just find it too, you know, strange. Where you have to be 6 feet, and supermarkets. I remember my supermarket where I lived, not here in Florida, in Northern Virginia. They had one way, and then you one way in one aisles, you know, all that, and then maintain your distance. I go, you know, this is something that Howie Mandel was doing for years. Did he finally, you know, are we starting to pay attention to Howie Mandel and his OCD? So I think people, you know, got too hysterical, and, you know, Trump tried to get into it, and Biden as well. And, you know, they tried to make all this hype. So if they're doing it again, I think it's the conservative media that is saying, well, Biden needs to lock us down. You know, he's not doing a good job. Trump will do it better. And here's where we get this tribalism politics here, that, you know, what they did to Trump in 2020, the conservative media is going to do it to Biden in 2024, because it's all tribalism. It's all, my guy is better than your guy. My guy is the lesser of two evils excuse. And quite frankly, I'm not surprised that they're going to come out with the bird flu virus and lockdowns and all that. And to respond to your comment on it's an invasion of our privacy, not only denying due process to lock us down without any sense of, you know, if we're arrested without due process, but also an invasion of my privacy, that, you know, you're confining us because you're scared of a disease. I just, you know, bottom line is, I see this tribalism politics playing in 2024 on the right-wing side, and the Republican side gonna blame Biden as they blame Trump from the left. And we're going to see this again. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as COVID, but I think it's going to have another campaign season. Because again, you know, here's the funny part here, Seth. Right now, there is no issue-based campaigns anymore, because both parties, both candidates will have the same issues. They both want the same for the federal government. So it's no longer an issue based like in, you know, 1924 or 1948 or 1952. There's no more issue based campaigns, or 1960. It's now, you know, whatever the hype is. So that's going to be the hype. It's either going to be COVID or bird flu or something where, you know, that's going to be the campaign issue here. And I'm not surprised if they're going to do it again. I'm really not. And, you know, the sad thing is that Republicans will play along with it because, again, it's all tribalism here, and that's what we're going for now.
Yeah, and you know, the principle to me is, you know, a separation of health and state. These are separate entities. We shouldn't have an FDA. We shouldn't have a CDC. These are not constitutional agencies. The government cannot protect you and your health. You have to protect yourself. And we should want a free market system in healthcare, in which healthcare has to actually, the healthcare industry and the pharmaceutical industry has to cater to the consumer, not to what the government's dictating and what the government's funding. You know, and that's why I promote free markets is because it allows the consumer to be the regulator. That's one of the things is when you promote free markets, they say, well, you believe in no regulations. Well, no, I believe in regulations, but I believe in the consumer being the regulator rather than the government being the regulator. But, as long as the government's the ones dictating what's going to happen in healthcare and funding all the research and everything and development of products that are being sold by the pharmaceutical industry, I do not trust what's coming out of the pharmaceutical industry. If we have a free market system, then I have more trust and faith, because if the pharmaceutical industry harms you, you get to sue them. But now we have a government that's developed immunity for big pharma, and I don't trust what they're doing, and this is why the principles matter. That it is not the government's job to protect you from viruses and diseases. I mean, it is your job to protect your own health. I don't believe in any such thing as public health. I believe in individual health, and it's on the duty is on the individual to protect themselves. And you go out and you seek medical care when you're sick, and you make the decisions. It's you also pay for your own medical care. You don't use tax. You don't force taxpayers to fund your health care, and that's what we should want. But instead, we've got the politics here, and you go back to COVID, and basically, like take the shot for instance. If it exposes a hypocrisy on both sides. When the COVID shots were first introduced by Trump, the left was against them. They said, well, if it's a Donald Trump produced shot, I'm never going to take it. But suddenly, when Joe Biden's president and he's mandating it, all of a sudden the shot is a great thing. And vice versa with the Republicans. When Donald Trump was the one promoting the shot and pushing the shot, they were all like thinking this was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then Joe Biden gets in and starts mandating it, and now the Republicans are against it. It just exposes the hypocrisy of both sides, and nobody has principles here, and this is what I worry about, is that if we don't understand our principles, then we will allow the government to do a whole lot of bad to us. And, you just go back to mask mandates. I oppose the mask mandates, not because I didn't think masks worked, even though I've come to believe they weren't effective, but that wasn't the point to me. Is like the government doesn't have the authority to tell me to wear cloth on my face. It was that simple. It was just, especially without any laws. I mean, these mask mandates came into effect because of executive orders, and as far as I know, not one state legislator ever created a law to allow it. And yet we still saw people getting arrested for not wearing a mask. And we need to have principles.
Yeah, we need to have. We need to go back to the basics of who makes the laws and who enforces and regulates the law. And again, you're right. The governor when I lived in Virginia, Ralph Northam, I think it was. He issued an executive order to issue mask mandates, and we had to comply or face prison. Well, where's your precedence on that? Where's your I'm going to prison to disobey an executive order. I thought it was you go to prison if you disobey a law. Executive orders are not laws. They're not legislation. People need to understand that. And, this thing of, the president or the governor signing an executive order, it's insane. The only executive order that I would seek, that I would see understanding is when a president when Congress doesn't do a recess appointment or something to that effect, and the president issues an executive order to confirm a cabinet position. That is an executive order, that type, but to make it into a law? So, again, like I said, I'm going to go to prison because I'm disobeying an executive order. I thought I would go to prison for disobeying a law. So it's, with your point, Seth, that, the consumer is, the market should be regulated by the consumer. Yes, the market should be definitely regulated by the consumer, not by the government, because that's going to create more chaos, more dismay. And we've seen it time and time again when Congress regulates Wall Street, when Congress regulates the housing market. See how that went. That was insane. And because of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Congress giving more regulation, and people got spooked. People got scared. That's exactly what happened on October 23rd, 1929. Before that, when Congress was passing tariffs and were passing regulations and signed by Herbert Hoover, people got scared and they started to take their money out because they were going to be taxed. They were living the life of a dream with the great Calvin Coolidge of no taxation, no tariffs, free trade all around. It was a golden year for America. Wall Street was thriving and Main Street was booming. It was perfect. But then Herbert Hoover comes in, passes all these regulations, passes all these taxes. People get scared, take their money, and boom, stock market crashes, and you had the Great Depression. So we don't want that. We don't want the government to regulate these things because it doesn't help us. It's the consumer. I saw with the COVID, Johns Hopkins University was one of the first universities that came out with the COVID numbers. And then they finally opened Popeye's Chicken in Springfield, and I'm there. Of course, it was still kind of like segregated with a few tables where you can eat. And I see that Johns Hopkins have been awarded, what was it, $50 million or $40 million for research for the COVID vaccine. I go, wow, that's nice. My money going to Johns Hopkins, to that lazy university up in Baltimore, Maryland, to try to find a COVID vaccine. Oh, that's nice. That's rich. So, again, it wouldn't surprise me that they're sending funds to rebuild the Key Bridge because, again, that's my money going to help other states, which it shouldn't have. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen on the private level. It should happen on the public level or on the infrastructure level. So government doesn't have the right to do this, to protect your health, to issue health mandates. Congress should not have a Health and Human Services, and as Seth said, there should be no CDC, there should be no FDA, because it's just wasted bureaucracy for non-essential workforce. It's futile. So, it looks like people like to repeat history, and again, we're going to see this tribalist warfare. My guy will do it better. Your guy's an old man who can, issue lockdowns. Trump did it. We want Trump. Trump will give us into lockdowns, and that's it's going to be a crazy year, Seth. So I'm not looking forward to it. I hope it. Here in the state of Florida, I don't know how DeSantis will react. But he likes to play the tribal war, so maybe he'll follow it and lock us down just to give Trump the leg up. I know probably your state of Illinois, Governor Pritzker will probably, maybe he won't issue lockdowns because you have Biden, so maybe he'll be more of a conservative constitutionalist than DeSantis. Who knows?
It'll come down to people need to understand when you get the government involved, there's a whole lot of agendas going on that have nothing to do with your health. And, I have theories about, why a lockdown happened. And they're just thoughts I have, like, if people don't probably remember this because there wasn't too much media coverage, but at the end of 2019, you had these repo loans going out to the banks because all the banks were faltering, and they were giving out more bailouts of banks than we did back in 2008 when we had that banking crisis. So the economy was very weak because, we're not allowed to say that because Trump gave us the greatest economy ever, which is a lie. But I believe they needed an excuse for a massive infusion of the drug called easy money, which came in the form of the CARES Act. And so I think that was part of it. I think part of it was economic, that the economy was going to face a real collapse heading into the election year. And Trump's team was telling him, hey, let's lock down and get this CARES Act out there, and that'll do something. And there are agendas going on that have nothing to do with your health. I don't know all the inner workings of what led to lockdown. All I know is I opposed it from the beginning. I was really disgusted how the American people just complied, and I'm worried that it's going to happen again. And because people want the government to take care of them, and this is what I want to knock out of people's heads is, no, you do not want the government to take care of you. You want to take care of yourselves, and we'll see what happens. I worry that Donald Trump will be reinstalled and they'll do lockdown again, and the conservatives will go along, because I think that's they need Donald Trump to be there to do something like lockdowns, because at least when you have Joe Biden there, the conservatives will fight the lockdown because it's Joe Biden. But when their guy Donald Trump wants to lock us down, they'll remain silent.
Well, I think it's the opposite. I think the conservative movement does want Biden to lock us down, and if Biden does not, then the conservative movement says, well, Trump will do it, and Trump will do it better, and he did it better, and yada yada yada. So I think that it's gonna flip on the other side, and there's something else that I want to touch base before we move to the other subject. But what was it? What was it that you said before the lockdown? Before Trump will be reinstated. What was it that you discussed?
Well, basically that there are agendas that have nothing to do with your health that are going on. We had the economy was faltering in 2019, and
that's it. Something I really hate is people said, "Oh, the economy was better with Trump," and I keep telling people, I sound like a really broken record here. We have been in a recession since 2001. The country has not seen a boost in job growth. We've had, during the Obama years, we had 200,000 added here, 150 added here. Even with Trump again, 150. Like, I really trust the numbers coming out of the budget office. I really, come on, people. This is the same office from Congress. Do you actually believe these numbers? So, this country has, we left the Clinton presidency with a conservative Congress and a surplus of gigantic proportions. This country has seen the second largest surplus in U.S. history. What happened? The Iraq and Afghanistan war, and we wasted all that money. So that money should have come back to us, or should have done in good faith in other projects for the country, but they decided to spend it on two useless wars. So after that, the economy has been in a recession. It hasn't fluctuated. It hasn't stimulated nothing. The American Recovery Act that Obama passed did nothing. But Trump did nothing. Biden has done nothing. So this thing that people say, well, with Biden, unemployment is 1.2%, whatever it is. It's peanuts. I've seen more homeless people now, even with Trump and Biden combined together. and Obama, and it's just this tribalism politics that it's insane, and I just can't take it anymore, because I sound like a broken record when I tell people that this is not true. Trump didn't give us a good economy. Biden's not giving us a good economy. Obama never gave us a good economy. Clinton did, because we had a good working majority in Congress. I mean, I keep telling people 95, 96 were great years for the United States, because who controlled Congress? The conservatives, when they were really good conservatives, and they controlled the purse. But, after that, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, it's this tribalism politics that is pathetic. And here comes our next subject on the whole immunity trial of Trump.
Can I just
sure.
resource for people with what you were just talking about? I urge people to go to John Williams' Shadow Stats. This guy's been compiling the real economic statistics for years, for decades. And if you look at the unemployment rate, the real unemployment rate, and he just calculates it the way unemployment used to be calculated, which was changed in the 90s. Unemployment has been above 20% ever since the 2008 economic crash. So what you get from the government is a bunch of lies. And John Williams' Shadow Stats is a great resource to see what's really going on in the economy.
Can you spell his name?
It's just JOHNWILLIAMS and Shadow Stats.
Shadow Stats. Okay. Yeah, no, I know you spoke to him before, and he's probably right. And I have seen it. I mean, I remember in 2001, this country faced we had 9/11, and we thought the Iran and Afghanistan war was going to be stimulating the economy. It didn't stimulate jack squat. This country cannot get out of this recession from 2001. And people think, Obama did it. No. It started with W, continue with Obama, continue with Trump, and now with Biden. And if Trump gets in, we'll continue with Trump. The economy will not stimulate. The economy hasn't stimulated because the federal government has grown so much that, they don't care about the economy. And people, sadly, we live in a world of very ignorant people that don't understand. And, here comes the next subject of ours, where I'm just, reading the transcripts for United States versus Trump on his immunity trial, and it's just it's a bunch of again tribalism politics, because the lawyer for the petitioner, Donald J. Trump, said, could President George W. Bush have been sent to prison for obstructing an official proceeding or allegedly lying to Congress to induce war in Iraq? Could President Obama be charged with murder for killing U.S. citizens abroad by drone strikes? And also, remember, Trump did the same thing in Syria and in other countries. And could President Biden someday be charged with unlawfully inducing immigrants to enter the country illegally for his border policies? The answer to those questions is yes, yes, and yes. Every president, Trump is no different than Biden or Obama or Bush. Every single president has committed a crime in his oath of office, and yes, he should be charged. He is not immune. He's not above the law. He's below the law, like we all are. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, and that's the thing about this whole case. Just the fact that we're asking the question is, does the president have immunity for life? Of course not. The fact that this is even being asked is scary to me. This shows you how much people they love the office of the presidency. I mean, I think George Washington's rolling in his grave because he viewed the presidency as supposed to be this rather weak position that didn't do a whole lot except what Congress lawfully gave him orders to do. I mean, you look at the crimes that, every president in my lifetime has committed egregious crimes, and none of them are held accountable. And, when it comes to Donald Trump, I think a lot of what's going on is theater. I think the Democrats are playing politics, and, I don't like that aspect of it. But I also think Donald Trump is a criminal. I think his biggest crime was locking us down. I think his biggest crime was, stealing billions of dollars for trillions of dollars from us over his 4 years. For stuff that the government didn't have authority to our money to pay for anyways. So I do think Trump should be prosecuted, and I think what would be great is if, the conservatives woke up and recognized that Trump was a criminal, Joe Biden's a criminal. Hey, why don't we go after Joe Biden as well? Why don't we go after Barack Obama or George W. Bush? I mean, instead of, fighting for immunity for presidents, why don't we hold them all accountable? And that's, one of my problems with what's happening with Trump is it's selective prosecution that, the left hates Donald Trump, so that's the only reason why they're going after Donald Trump. It's not about actually seeking justice. It's about going after a guy they hate. I say, let's go after them all. Let's go after all these politicians who have committed crimes against us by defiling our liberties. Does the president have immunity? No, they don't. And we should understand that. We should want accountability for their actions.
No, yeah, and you mentioned that this sounds like a political theater, and it is. It really is amateur theatrics. Here's another from Justice Sotomayor. She asked this question: if the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts for which he can get immunity? Are you kidding me? Are you actually throwing a question for advocating murder? If his rival is corrupt, and there is evidence of that person's corruption, then you take him to trial. I mean, for a justice of the court to come up with this question, it frightens me that you're disavowing the due process clause. So what? You're giving an idea that you're giving an idea to the president to kill somebody just like that? I mean, that scares me that today's justices of the court this sounds to me like they're advocating for murder. I mean, they're plotting, they're putting ideas into somebody's head that, Justice Sotomayor said it, I guess it's okay. No, it's not okay. Advocating for murder, when I read that, I'm like, that's insane. If someone is a threat and there's evidence to that threat, then you take them to trial and you convict them on that threat. And you present that evidence and you try to get a conviction out of that evidence. But it's when I read that, that's why I'm really not paying much attention, because as Seth pointed out, it's political theatrics. It's political theater where they really have no basis to put a story, a credible story in refusing immunity to a commander in chief. And so they're throwing out these stupid stories, these stupid questions and theories that, makes them look so smart. But in the end, it makes you look stupid, Sotomayor. And for God's sakes, stop it already. Stop playing partisan politics. If Trump is crooked, Biden is crooked, Obama's crooked, all the presidents. I wish we could do a posthumous trial for LBJ. He's the biggest crook of them all. Why don't you go after his estate? It's so stupid, and when I read that, I just almost threw up.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how we get to this without breaking through the tribalism and People don't want to hold their guy accountable, but they want to hold the other guy accountable. And consider this: if Trump gets his way and they say presidents do have immunity, that means you can't hold Joe Biden accountable. This is this what you want? Do you want the Democrats to not have any accountability? Because you need to protect your savior, Donald Trump. It's disgusting. But here we are in 2024, and it's just par for the course in an insane times that we live in.
Yeah, I know it is, and then they're trying to say private acts don't have immunity, but not official acts. So again, getting fellatio, and that's a private act. Are you telling me that you were thinking of prosecuting Bill Clinton for getting fellatio? Give me a break here. Give me a break. I mean, here is a man who called the Georgia governor and actually asked him to find 11,000 votes for him to win Georgia. I mean, that's an official act. That alone doesn't deserve immunity. You're asking another public official to commit a crime to get him 11,000 votes. I mean, that's like if Governor George W. Bush called Jeb Bush in 2000 and says, "Hey, little brother, give me some votes down in Palm Beach County." That is breaking the law. You can't do that. So for Justice Barrett to put that question that private acts don't have immunity, who cares about private acts? I'm more interested about public official acts, that you have a president asking the Georgia governor to get votes. That alone doesn't get immunity. That alone is a criminal act. Or Nixon Watergate. That alone is when Nixon tried to get executive privilege to not release those tapes. I will say this: he did have a point. Those tapes are executive privilege, but when you have a cover-up detailing on those tapes, no more executive privilege, and that's why the Supreme Court had to get those tapes. So that alone is a criminal act. So we have really, as Seth said, this has become a tribal politics war. It's been, again, Democrat, Republican trying to hate each other, the lesser of two evils, blah, blah, blah. And, reading more into this transcript nonsense, I mean, as Seth put, if the Supreme Court will rule that presidents do have immunity, unless they will only rule on Trump, then, Biden won't have immunity. But yet again, they will still have that presidency, and they'll find a way to get it over somewhere. But do you really want Democrats not to have immunity and get away with everything? Do you really want that? No, that's why in '96, the Supreme Court, Clinton versus Jones, unanimously, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was like this with Clinton, she voted with the Constitution. I couldn't believe it when I saw that it was unanimously decided that, presidents don't have immunity. Presidents can be charged even before entering the White House and leaving the White House on crimes they've done. So, they don't have immunity. They don't have immunity. They really don't. And you cannot give privilege to one person and deny the rest. I'm nervous. Alito, I never liked Alito. I think Alito is a snake. Number one, because he didn't favor First Amendment rights on a group of people, which I don't agree with him. But again, we all have First Amendment rights. So I'm not too sympathetic to Alito. I think he will be a scoundrel and a snake. I don't know how Thomas will fit in. But we'll see. But and Kavanaugh, I have no faith on that guy. I think that guy has too many beers. So I don't know. I mean, it's enough with troublesome politics, and get back to the Constitution. And no one is above the law, quoting Judicial Watch. No one is above the law.
Yeah, and you just you brought up Clinton. That's still something that really gets to me, that what they went after Bill Clinton for was, and I as a Christian, I find his behavior reprehensible, but it wasn't a crime. But what he did in response to it, he bombed innocent wedding parties in the Middle East to get the headlines off of Monica Lewinsky, and nobody said anything about that. It was like, oh yeah, he has the immunity to do that. He has the immunity to kill people, to get headlines off of his infidelity. We go after these guys for all the wrong reasons, when the actual crimes that they commit, they get away with scot-free.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I forgot about. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Kenneth Starr and all those idiots that went after Clinton for the most stupid reason, and they involved Monica Lewinsky and all that crap. I mean, which I'm against. I'm glad the Ethics in Government Act was Congress didn't. Congress did not. They let the law expire, and they didn't. Seek it again. So I'm glad, because I never liked that act, because I don't think Congress has a right to appoint. That's the whole point. The founding fathers made this government so transparent, because even though the chief executive appoints the cabinet members, they're not loyal to him. So let's get this straight. Bill Barr is not loyal to Donald Trump. They're not. They're loyal. They swore an oath to the Constitution, not to the president. And something Trumpers don't understand when they were going after Jeff Sessions. As much as I despise that little shrimpy from Alabama, he's not loyal to the president. He's loyal to the Constitution. And, that's the genius of it. And that's why, I agree with that. The Attorney General appoints a special prosecutor in the Department of Justice. And then that department, investigates the White House and investigates certain crimes that are committed. And to keep, in order to keep everybody transparent and clean, I think that is the perfect system. But when you have Congress pass this Ethics in Government Act and install an independent counsel, that's going to create more corruption and more partisanship. That it's ludicrous. And I'm glad it expired in '99, and I'm glad that we don't have that anymore, because it doesn't help. But what people need to understand is that branches, the separation of branches must remain separated, and they must remain separated within each other in order to maintain the peace and justice of it. So, you're right. With Bill Clinton, they went after him for the wrong reasons, and then later he bombed Bosnia and Herzegovina. He bombed Muslim countries in Africa and in the Middle East, and he gets away with it like nothing happened. The same thing with Obama. He got away with it in Libya, and got away with other sending drone strikes to Libya and Syria and God knows wherever, and Trump as well. So let's get back that's why, on a side note, I don't believe they should be swearing an oath to the Bible or to the Quran. They should be swearing an oath on top of the Constitution, because that's the oath they take. They don't take it to support the leader or support this. They take an oath to the Constitution. That's what they're supposed to be loyal to. They're supposed to be loyal to the Constitution, to that document that still is active, regardless if Republicans and Democrats don't want to. So I really, I just think that, we really need to get back to it. And no one, again, I repeat it, no one is above the law. Not even Trump, not Biden, nobody.
Yeah, and if we ever want to get liberty back, we need to hold these people accountable. I mean, this is the thing that just the fact that we're talking about our quote unquote choices being Warp Speed Don or Mandate Joe tells me everything that's wrong with America. That that people think that there's a difference between them. There's not. They're both criminals. They both have violated our human rights, and we need to hold them accountable.
Well, not just human rights, but our basic guaranteed rights in the Constitution. They violated them astronomical. And you're right, yeah, they need to be held accountable. And so when when I read these transcripts, I just laugh, and I'm about to throw up because I get nauseous from reading this tribalist political theater. And the same thing with lockdowns. The same that's going to happen with that. I think the Fox Media and Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity are going to do to Biden what they did to Trump. And they're going to say, well, Biden hasn't locked us down. Trump did. Trump was a hero. Yeah, we need Trump. We don't really need him. We don't need Biden either. Why not go back into just having Congress like the Roman Senate? Have them rule over us. Have like the Roman Senate. We don't really need a president. We really don't. Did they really need a Caesar? No, they didn't need a Caesar. The Senate made the laws. Why don't we just go back to that? Why don't we go back to having just Congress dictate the laws and have Congress, like the Roman Senate, enforce the laws? Quite honestly, I feel more safe with like Roman Senate days than with President Biden or President Trump days. I don't understand what is the need of a president. The president's not powerful. It has no power. It never had, never did. Congress gave him that power because Congress is spineless. So, bottom for my conclusion is this: no one's above the law. I hope that in this next election you will abstain. You will not even vote. I think I saw somewhere that voter participation is at an all-time low. I think 2020 was also a very low voter participation. I think this year is even lower. That's good. Keep it that way. Abstain your vote and just don't give a damn about what's going on. I mean, even state elections, I'm not thinking of even voting for state elections because I think it's pointless because they're going to get money from the federal government. So it's really no sovereignty there. So, stop with this tribalism politics and just don't vote. Just stay home and just have a beer, watch some sports, and that's your life. What about you, Seth?
Yeah, and think for yourself. It's on the vein of what you just said. I wish I had the story in front of me to get the exact numbers, but there was a pollster who came out and said that we've got record number of independents, people who don't want Democrats or Republicans, and this guy basically said that. This is a threat to democracy. First off, as we've talked about before, we're supposed to have a Republican, not a democracy. But, let's just go with what this guy said. So it's a threat to our nation that people are thinking for themselves and not engaging in the tribalism. Just think about that, chew on that they think it's a threat because people are independent. That's where we are in 2024.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. So I don't care. I mean, I'm not even independent. I'm just a constitutionalist that support the Constitution. I don't vote for third party. I don't vote for Republican or Democrat because I think all parties now just want a bigger federal government for protection, and even libertarians do want that. I think my vote that I wasted was for Gary Johnson, and I don't like him, and he just wanted a bigger federal government as well. The same thing with Trump and Biden. So I'm not even independent. I don't vote for independent candidates. I'm just gonna think for myself and just abstain. Like I said, I'm going to crack open, I don't drink beer, but I'm going to crack open a bottle of rum and Coke, and just sit back and watch some sports. Not baseball. I know, Seth, you love baseball, but not baseball, but I'll just crack open some football, and that's me. So my last thought is, abstain. Don't play into this travelers game, and just go on with your life. It's, business as usual for your happiness, for your life.
Yeah. Avoid the tribalism. Think for yourself, and don't do stuff locally that can preserve your liberty, because it's up to us to fight for our own liberty, and a large part of that is just defying unconstitutional edicts. So we need to as somebody who I hate collectivism, but I say that we have to stand collectively for our individual liberty. It's the line, I forget which founder said it, but we'll either hang together or we'll hang separately.
Yeah, I think that was Ben Franklin who said that.
Yeah.
Which, I really admire Ben Franklin. But with that note, I hope you all guys hopefully learned something tonight, and we'll see you all next Sunday. And have yourself a great night and a good week ahead.
Good night.